Well, now I know the pause thing doesn't work. It'll pause it, but you can't leave the camera. So I'm working on the Dephemerember Challenge book. I'm going to have video 1 and video 2. So this is the Challenge 11, Halloween Meets Christmas. And so I like making tutus in my sewing room for adults. And so I added a little girl that I drew the face on and cut out like a little ballerina. And here she is at the Christmas tree. I used the, what's it called? Fiber paste. So it's got a lot more texture to it, and painted it. So I have the tree down here. I used an old mailer envelope, the heavier one, that cardstock. Did some splatters on it, painted it, added painted here. Gave her a Santa hat with her crazy scrap threads for hair. I have a little box at my sewing machine, and I just throw all the threads in there. And so I have a little charm hanging down, star for Christmas, and her little hat. And this was one of those holographic stars. Then you flip it up, and it is Witches, Healing Magic, Merriment, Broomstick Flying School. And now she is a witch with a witch hat on, which is like tutus also. And the broom has a couple charms on it. Let me lift that up again. I just took a stick and covered it in some glitter string so it looked like it was lit up. And I actually used raffia paper for the broom and sewed across it like it would be a broom. And yeah, her hat is velvet that had little speckles on it, used fabric from the Goodwill. You can find all kinds of interesting fabrics if you don't look at the garment, but you look at the fabric. And this was probably from Goodwill also, and donated lace. I had a lot of donated stuff to me for this project of the art retreat that I hope to open in May. So this was another tag just to put in the envelope here. I don't know who did that quote. I put a little Guatemalan weaver on here, and Effie shows up again. And this is his letter that he wrote. And so I added more vintage to it by putting it on, I think it's just tissue paper that was oxide sprayed. You can see a little bit of beads in here and some gauze underneath. So this is like faux rice paper. And then a printable from the site. So there's a place to write on the back. And I did a stencil. It's corrugated cardboard, and what I do is just roll my paint across it and then stamp it down to give it a lined page look. And the tag here and here is manila folder that I sprayed distressed ink on. So that was Challenge 11. Challenge 13 was Magical Creatures. So I took a photograph and printed it out from Balboa Park in California when I went on my long camping trip of 33 days with 2 other girls. And so I layered the same picture, cut out, blew up different layers, and I think it's at least 4 layers of the picture, because the park had this amazing waterfalls, so I wanted to make it collaged. And I added more rocks to it, the water feature here. I cut out these little fairies in glass bottles and added them. And then this fairy I found on the web and cut her out, put it on. little stack of books, some more tiny fairies, cut out plants and added that to it, some washi tape along the side, added more green leaves to give it depth here, like leaves were coming in. So it was kind of fun to do, a lot of cutting. Even have a shadow of the fairy on the rock, and that's probably done with a gray, I got a light gray Faber-Castell pen marker. And I put shadows under the rock here. I probably darkened the shadows in here too to give it more depth. See the little fairy bottles. They kind of do sit up on the rocks nice. And a little fairy with a shadow. Oh, my umbrella fell off my shelf. So the next challenge is, I cannot pronounce it most likely, KINTSUGI, KINTSUGI houses. 2 words. So this one I think I'll take out so we can see it better. So I use manila envelope. Actually, this is watercolor paper and spray oxide and water to give it that watery look. Glued onto, I believe that was a stencil underneath here too. So I made it into a manila folder, a little miniature one, and inside I have a card. Richard Jefferies quote. And there's a place to write on the back. And I left the little tag to pull it out. This side I added a rivet and a charms. Sticking with the dragonfly theme because I love dragonflies. This was some kind of old paper with writing on it, and I just left it on there. And so this card, the limits of the possibilities can only be defined by going beyond them into the impossible. Arthur C. Clarke. And this is also spray oxide and water and letting it run. And the back is for writing on. That goes in that pocket. So doors and houses go together. So I have doors on the front. And then I had this little hinge. And I put a rolled up paper as the lock part. And I put on the hinge with little rivets. They're with the little prongs on it. On those little, I can't remember the name of them now. Supposed to be good projects to keep my brain going. So I have inside is the KINTSUGI, and it's one of my hand-dyed papers that I left the tree stencil in the dye bath. And it came out so vague that I went back over it after it was dry and painted most of the leaves. So you can't even see the original dye bath underneath. And you know, actually, I think what I did is after the dye bath, it was still so non-legible that I did a gel print with the same stencil. And the gel print still was not enough depth to it. Then I painted on top. So the gel print has the black background to it, and it had the leaf, the stencil there. And in the gel print, I left the trunk area this light color, and it's a map underneath here. So then I took and tore it all apart and spaced it out and added gold leaf, which I put glue down and then put the gold leaf down. And that's part of the KINTSUGI, which is the process they did with vases and pottery that got broke, ceramics that got broke. They would glue them all back together and put gold in all the cracks. So these are tissue paper gel prints, and they are the original paint on the gel plate with the stencil. So the tissue was laid down on top of the stencil to pull off the paint. And I believe that I'd used the tissue for other scraps, so it's got these other colors in the background. Awareness is the greatest agent for change. Tolly. I believe that was a study book I did. So this is Spring Fall, and that's another gel print on tissue paper. That is it. Openings. And those two cards, they're old Christmas cards. And I just cut out the image. And the other side of the page, I don't know if this was a challenge. Nope. Don't think so. So I made it a flipped envelope. So I took business envelopes and covered them with paper, making the pockets see-through. This was a jasmine leaf, I believe, and some old paper from an anise oil bottle. I love anise oil in cookies. Oh, this is the jasmine flower underneath the netting, and it's spray oxide. So the envelope opens up. Added a pocket here. This is snake skin and mushrooms and a tea bag tag that I gel printed on. And some gauze added to the side. And the envelope flips out this way, and this one is empty. And then in here I had another pocket with some more of that cork. And the pocket is looks like a little bag, but it is a tiny little journal. And this is cut out, added to it. Sewed some fabric across that envelope. Well, it's not on the envelope itself, it's on the paper that I glued to the envelope. And then this one, oh, there's Effie popping out again. Mushrooms. You know, there was a challenge with mushrooms. Where is it? Mushrooms and robots. And I could not get it. But I looked up mushrooms and found out that all the mushrooms are harvested by machinery, or a lot of them, in a cave-like environment on all this assembly line stuff, and disappointed me that I'm sure the mushrooms aren't near as nutritional as they used to be when they gathered them. It has to be a whole different life there. So I just put mushrooms everywhere. That's why the challenge, mushrooms and robots. So I just kind of avoided the robot part except for the assembly line in the process. The robots were actually knew which mushrooms were ripe and would pick them up and put them over in the basket. And I cut out some mushrooms here and some real live dried fern and moss and a dried leaf and just another scrap of fabric across in this specimen card. Delicate World, redwood moss. Oh, that was actual moss from my trip when I went to the redwoods. And it was some kind of paper that somebody wrote a grocery list on, or some kind of list. Yeah. So that was a tag added in here. And I believe that ends my Dephemerember journal in 2 parts, because I'm learning the darn phone camera. And then I'm going to show you put that up and show you the bead box for travel, and in my junk journal space. And this box is just to leave here because it's got too many loose pieces. So this is what I grab if I want to make a dangle while I'm working on a journal. I've kind of picked out from all my jewelry junk pieces that I wanted to use with journals itself. And this box is a child's, I think it's, I don't know what it is. It's a makeup case, but it was like, looks like a little kid's makeup case. And odd boxes like that make great traveling things. So in this, there's 2 layers. I have my wires. I have an assortment of different types of threads and ribbons, even cut ribbons that I cut silk that I cut into balls and scraps. Let's see what I have down here. Another little card with some ribbons. There's several of these in there with ribbons on it. And the wire, bits of lace, and then some folded books here to make little bundles of, I make these things. Let's see. In my stash over there. I call them satchel bundles because back in the 20s, Laura Ingalls bundled her books up to go to school and put a belt around it. And then I just added dangles to the bottom. Assortment of beads and charms on the very bottom. And then that'll hang on a journal. So this is all the makings to make those kind of things, or just dangles. And so I have all these little secret boxes that I'd saved years ago. This one's more current. I got this one at a smoke shop on my travels. I just went in to see what they look like in the legal pot stores. And so it's got some little bottles and rocks inside, you know, the kind of bottles you can dangle from your bead. And so this can sit in here pretty good. And so this layer, more ribbon, threads, a container of needles, different size needles, and then a whole line of little secret boxes with different beads, wood bead, glass bead, dragonfly charms, sea glass, and bells, plastic beads, shells, panda buttons, sorted buttons, some more wire, some more beads and attachments, just odd little things there. And some more beads and bulb pins. Tuck things in everywhere. This is mostly wires. There is some tissue, a needle kit and sewing, some more bottles that are iridescent, and wire and thread. This is an assortment of wire and some more thread and more wire and more. There's silk thread down in there. So this really packages up everything really, really nice to take on a trip. And I can use them for beads or charms, or you know, there's so many things. It snaps shut really good, and it sits on my shelf. Bead travel kit.